Welcome. This video will explore de minimis calculations and see how SAP Global Trade Services can support you in adhering to U.S. export regulations when selling export-controlled components residing in products manufactured outside the USA. Before we begin, let's look at some of the benefits of de minimis calculation in SAP GTS. It helps you adhere to U.S. re-export regulations even for products produced outside the U.S. You can avoid fines and penalties, document reasonable care through complete audit trails. It can enable business transactions that would not have been possible without de minimis. We also need to cover some terminology. U.S. re-export controls. U.S. export control law also applies to U.S. goods, technology, and software components and other products later exported as finished goods. This applies regardless of the country of origin of the finished product and regardless of the company's location. These controls are essential if you supply to the so-called critical countries. Export Administration Regulations. The EAR applies to exports of commodities, software, and technical data from the U.S. to foreign countries and re-exports from one foreign country to another. In addition, it applies to shipments from one foreign country to another of foreign-made products that incorporate more than 10% or 25% U.S. origin parts, components, or materials by value, depending on the country of ultimate destination. U.S. Munitions List. The U.S. Department of State controls exports of items designated as military and included on the U.S. munitions list. There is no de minimis exemption for incorporated USML content in foreign-made products. Therefore, the de minimis exemption described herein is limited to EAR-controlled items. Certain EAR-regulated items are also exempt from the de minimis and always require export licensing. So let us begin. We will look at one product, a power unit. For simplicity, our power unit consists of only 4 components, one diesel engine, one cooler, one clutch and one gear unit. 2 of the components, the clutch and the gear unit, are under U.S. Export Administration regulations. We will create 2 sales orders, selling the power unit from Germany to a customer based in Austria. Depending on the sales price, we will see that the sales orders will either meet or fail to meet the requirements needed to avoid being blocked in legal control. A block in legal control will require us to obtain a valid export license. We begin by opening the display product, re-export app, and we take a look at the power unit. We see 2 entries and are introduced to 2 new terms, critical and uncritical countries for U.S. re-export. Critical countries, which we will look into a bit later, has stricter to minimize requirements than uncritical ones. To see more details, we press the product button in the upper left corner. The button brings us to the customs product master data. We quickly select the re-export tab of the master data record. Scrolling a bit to the right shows that we have 2 different hardware cost calculations. For critical countries, it is 3 times as high as for uncritical countries. Let's find out why. To understand better, we open the Calculate Products for Re-Export app. We perform a recalculation of the re-export values and can see the same values as just before. We open the calculation log. Before we move on, let's have a brief look at critical versus uncritical countries. Among critical countries, we find Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Sudan, and Syria. Countries with much stricter U.S. re-export regulations than the uncritical countries. Critical and uncritical countries are maintained as country groups in the system. We go one step back and open the calculation log showing which products in the bill of material for the power unit that goes into the calculated value. For critical countries, both U.S. originating materials form part of the base. The calculation log for uncritical countries shows that only one of the U.S. originating materials is under export control for these countries, hence the lower threshold value. For uncritical countries, the de minimis rules say that an export transaction can pass if the U.S. originating value represents less than 25% of the total transactional value. So, for example, let's see what happens when we create a sales order for an Austrian customer, with a sales price of €1,040. With a value base of 250, any price above 1,000 should let the order pass without formalities. So we save the order and can see that it is saved without any problem. Let us see what happens if we create a similar order, with a sales price below 1,000. When saving, we get a warning. The order is blocked by legal control. A lower price brought us into problems. We will now examine how. To better understand, we open the Displayed Documents Compliance Management app. Then, we search for the two newly created sales orders. We can see that the first order is all green and good to go. However, the second order is not. It is, as we already know, blocked by legal control. We open the check log for the first order. We browse down slowly and can see how the order has been systematically checked for a number of regulations. On the U.S. re-export control, the correct cost base has been found and compared against the transaction value. The conclusion is positive. We are good to go since the value of U.S. origin is less than the 25% de minimis threshold. We go one step back and open a similar log for the second order. We scroll down and can see that the conclusion is less positive. The sales price is too low to bring us within the de minimis. Consequently, further checks are performed for EAR. The conclusion is that an export license is required. The functionality shown in this video is available in SAP Global Trade Services connected to S/4HANA Enterprise Management or SAP ERP. Before we end, let's recap some of the benefits of de minimis calculation in SAP GTS. It helps you adhere to U.S. re-export regulations even for products produced outside the U.S. You can avoid fines and penalties, document reasonable care through complete audit trails. It can enable business transactions that would not have been possible without de minimis. The views, information or opinions expressed are solely those of the individuals involved and not those of the individual's employer, or any other group or individual. Thanks a lot for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe. More videos like this are coming shortly. See you then.